don't value people with only opinions. I value people who've been there, done that.
So I finished the training, ready to again the baseline. Later today I will train again. The thing is, now I did the dips plus knee raises, pull-ups plus knee raises, and knees to elbows on the parallel bars. You can see the exercise that I'm doing in the video description. I got two videos, very basic things, and I explain the reason why and also the way you should approach it, especially when you're a beginner. Anyway, what I also want to say, you know, I don't know if you saw it on the video, and there was an older man, and as you probably understand by now watching the videos, I like to talk with everybody. So I got in a conversation with this guy, and he appeared to be a 75-year young man who trains 3 times per week calisthenics. And I'm mentioning this for all those young people with so-called injuries and mental issues. 75-year young, an old or a young, yeah, okay. He did for 35 years fireman work. You know, it's nice, right? I always get a lot of energy from, you know, talking with strangers, huh? So I'm also very genuinely interested, and also now that I'm a little bit older, I'm also holding back on all my questions, so because let's say 5 years ago I was still going all in, but you cannot do this. Now I know where the boundaries are, the limits. I always, you know, look at their body language, if I see if I have enough, but also I know the feeling a little bit. I can, you know, I always had this some sort of skill that I absorb other people their feelings pretty quickly, but I never could capture it and really, you know, really act on it properly, because I didn't harness but also not realize that this was one of my things that other people would label as, oh, you're oversensitive. And many times I got labeled like this, you're oversensitive. No, I was really into other people, you know. I always have been, you know, but along the years I simply knew, I learned how to harness it, also to keep boundaries distant, but also keep people out of my own circle to keep my life safe. You know, I'm still trying to solve a long-term thing caused by other people, but that's another story. Anyway, open your eyes, people, and especially when you feel anxious or a little bit disappointed in yourself, or you don't know, you cannot find your way in life, I think it's very important to engage with the world around you. And I'm going to be honest over here. This morning I felt also a little bit anxious because I worked so much on the upscaling part, and you know, and the and the progress in it for already more than 48 hours is a little bit stagnated. And I'm trying now to optimize the process, because you run into obstacles that you cannot discuss with a lot of people, because, you know, they simply don't understand. And if they can give their opinion but you got nothing about, I don't value people with only opinions. I value the people who've been there, done that, because then they can explain the reasons why, and they can also tell you about the pitfalls if you would take this route, that route. Anyway, so this morning I did feel a little bit anxious, and you know, I talked already with so many people, and yeah, that actually, you know, makes me feel very good. Not that I feel bad, but you know, I could feel there's a little bit of sense of, you know, maybe frustrated. You know, earlier clip I talked about being a little bit more patient, but that is an ongoing process, huh? I'm telling you, especially when you're growth obsessed. you know, and then you don't you know, allow yourself to relax, which I don't, and then you get sometimes a little bit frustrated, you know, when you're already busy with, let's say, a very tiny segment of a process and you cannot figure it out yet. But then you also have to allow yourself to take a little bit time off from that specific segment in that specific process, and then, you know, talk with people around you, engage with the world, appreciate how green everything is at the moment. See, and then let it flow, let your mind flow. The moment that things getting forced, especially when you know, being creative busy, you know, you cannot go against flows, you cannot bend, you know, like a 90 degrees flow, you know, this flow goes against you and then you try to bend it 90 degrees or even turn it around. That's not possible. You need to go with your mind flow, but also in order to stay a little bit in contact with reality, right? Because yeah, the things, and like I said, I do everything from the phone. There are not a lot of people on this planet who do everything on the phone. I'm not saying that I'm unique or the only one. There are probably way much more that do it, but I want to provide the strategies that can be implemented by the ordinary man, the normal person, the people. That's what I want. You know, you spend a little bit time on a learning curve. We're not talking about weeks. We talk about maybe 6 hours in total. Everybody has 6 hours in a whole week, especially the people who mindless scrolling. But the thing what let's close this clip before I start rattling again from topic to topic. You know, this 75-year-old man, young man, you know, he's training 3 times a week. So keep this in mind. When you're under 75, most people who watching it, they're probably under 75, so don't come up with excuses. And me as a almost 47-year young fart, you know, doing everything from the phone, getting into this vlogging journey, which is totally transparent and put me also a little bit naked, you know, out there. But if I would fail in front of thousands of people, who gives a furry rat's ass? Just do it, just do it, just do it, and nobody else gives a furry rat's ass. Okay.